Hey, English learners! Welcome back to Mr. English Fluent Tutor, and welcome back to another wonderful episode. I am Anna.
And I am Abel.
Abel, can I ask you a question?
Of course, Anna. Go right ahead. I'm always happy to answer a good question from you. You know that.
What do you think about when you hear the words, the power of silence?
Honestly, Anna, when I hear those words, my first thought is an awkward, uncomfortable gap in a conversation where nobody knows what to say next. You know that terrible feeling when everything just goes quiet and you are standing there with your mouth slightly open, completely frozen? Or even worse, you're giving a speech in English and your mind goes totally blank and you forget every single word you planned to say.
Oh, Abel, I completely understand why you feel that way, and I think so many of our English learners feel exactly the same thing. But here's the truth, and I want you to really hear this. Silence is not a failure. It's not a mistake. It's actually a beautiful, powerful tool that gives your mind the space it needs to think clearly, to breathe, and to choose your words with total confidence.
Wait, really? So silence is not something to be embarrassed about or afraid of during a conversation? I honestly never thought about it from that angle before, Anna. I always assumed that if I was quiet for even 2 or 3 seconds, the other person would think I was confused or struggling badly with the language.
Exactly, and that is such a common and very understandable myth. The truth is that intentional silence actually reduces daily stress in a really powerful way. It slows your nervous system down, it gives your brain a moment to sort through its thoughts, and it allows you, as a language learner, to select the right words with real calm, instead of rushing and saying something you did not mean at all.
That is genuinely surprising to me, Anna, and I love it. So we're saying that pausing before you speak is actually a sign of confidence and not a sign of weakness. That completely changes how I think about those quiet moments. Okay, I'm on board. Let's talk about this more because I feel like I really need to understand this topic deeply today.
Yes, absolutely, Abel. And I'm so glad you're open to exploring this with me. Let's start with something I love to call the water bottle analogy, because I think it makes this idea so clear and so easy to picture. Imagine that your mental energy, your daily peace and focus, is like a fresh, full bottle of clean water. That water is precious and limited every single day.
Okay, I love a good analogy, Anna. So I'm imagining a nice cold bottle of water right now, and I guess my mental peace is the water inside it. That's a really lovely way to picture it. So what happens to the water when we are constantly talking, constantly scrolling, listening to noise all day long without any break at all?
Well, Abel, every time you fill your environment with constant noise, whether that's endless social media videos, background television, nonstop conversations, or just the habit of never sitting quietly, you're basically turning that bottle upside down and pouring that beautiful, precious water straight onto the floor. By the end of the day, the bottle is completely empty, and you wonder why you feel so exhausted and so mentally drained.
Oh, wow. I genuinely feel called out right now, Anna, because that's exactly what my mornings look like. I wake up, and within about 30 seconds, I have my phone in my hand. I'm scrolling through notifications, I have music playing, and I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. So I'm already pouring my water out before the day has even properly started. That's quite a wake up call, honestly.
And you're definitely not alone in that habit, Abel. So many people do exactly the same thing without realizing the cost. But here's the beautiful alternative. Drinking that water intentionally means choosing to sit in quiet silence, even just for 10 or 15 minutes every morning, before the noise of the day begins. That small act allows your mind to recharge naturally, to settle, and to feel genuinely calm.
So it's less about eliminating all sound from your life forever and more about being intentional with your quiet moments, choosing when to be still. I really appreciate that distinction, Anna, because the idea of complete silence all day sounds a little extreme to me. But 10 or 15 minutes quiet in the morning? That I can actually picture myself doing without too much trouble.
Exactly, Abel. And that word intentional is actually one of our vocabulary words for today. So let's look at it briefly right here. Intentional means doing something on purpose, with a clear reason, and with full awareness. You're not being quiet by accident, you're choosing quiet because you understand what it gives you. And that choice makes all the difference in how it affects your well-being.
Oh, I like that definition, Anna. Intentional. So if I sit quietly for 10 minutes this morning because I decided to and I know why I'm doing it, that's intentional silence. But if I happen to be quiet because my phone ran out of battery and I had no choice, that's not really the same thing at all. The intention behind the action is what gives it its real power and meaning.
100% correct, Abel. And that was a perfect sentence right there. Now, let's move gently into our second idea because it connects so naturally to everything we just said. I want to talk about what I call the room with two windows, because this analogy helps us understand why silence can feel so terrifying to some people and so peaceful to others at the exact same time.
Okay, I'm very curious about this one, Anna. A room with two windows sounds quite poetic and a little mysterious. Tell me more about what this room looks like and what the two windows represent, because I feel like this is going to be one of those ideas that completely changes how I see something I experience every single day of my life.
So imagine you're sitting in a comfortable room, and on one side there's a window that looks out onto a dark, gray, cloudy, stormy sky. That window represents anxiety. When you experience a short silence in a conversation and you look through that anxious window, your brain tells you that the pause is a disaster, that everyone is judging you, that you have completely failed as a communicator, and that you should be deeply embarrassed right now.
Oh, that cloudy window sounds way too familiar, Anna. That's absolutely the window I've been looking through every time there's a quiet moment in an English conversation. My inner voice goes into full panic mode almost immediately. It says things like, "Why aren't you talking? Everyone is waiting. You're embarrassing yourself. Say something. Say anything. Just fill the silence right now before it gets worse."
Yes, and that inner panic voice is so common and so unkind, Abel. And we're going to talk more about that voice in just a moment. But first, let's look at the other window in that same room. On the opposite wall, there's a window that looks out onto a beautiful, bright green garden, full of soft light and fresh air. That window represents awareness and calm understanding.
So when I look through the green garden window, I see that same short silence in the conversation, but now it looks completely different. Instead of a disaster, it looks like a natural, healthy gap. It looks like a moment where both people can breathe, collect their thoughts, and connect more deeply before the next beautiful exchange of words. Is that the right way to understand it, Anna?
That is absolutely the right way, Abel, and you said it so beautifully. The silence did not change. The pause was the same length either way. What changed was the window you chose to look through. And this is such important news for English learners because you have the genuine ability to practice shifting your perspective, to notice the anxious window and then gently turn toward the green garden instead.
That is really reassuring, Anna, and honestly, quite freeing. It means the silence itself is neutral. It is not good or bad on its own. It is simply a moment of quiet. The meaning we give it is entirely our own choice. And with a little bit of practice and awareness, we can start choosing the calmer, more generous interpretation every single time we experience one of those pauses.
Beautifully said, Abel. And this connects directly to one of our important vocabulary words for today, which is the word reflection. Reflection simply means taking time to think quietly about something, to look inward, to process your experiences and your feelings before reacting. When you sit in a moment of silence during a conversation, you are actually giving yourself a tiny, valuable gift of reflection before you speak.
Oh, I love that, Anna. Reflection. So instead of scrambling desperately to fill every quiet moment with rushed, half-formed words, I can think of that pause as my personal reflection moment. I'm not frozen and failing. I am actually thinking deeply and preparing a more genuine, more thoughtful answer. That reframe alone makes me feel so much better about the pauses I experience when I speak in English.
Exactly. And here's a real daily life sentence for that word. You might say something like, After my difficult morning meeting, I took 5 minutes of silent reflection to understand how I was truly feeling before I responded to my manager. Notice how using reflection there makes the silence sound purposeful, calm, and mature, rather than awkward, uncomfortable, or embarrassing in any way.
That example sentence is so practical, Anna. I can immediately picture using that in my own daily life at work or at school. Okay, so we have talked about the water bottle idea and the room with two windows. Both of those felt really powerful to me. What is our next concept? Because I feel like we are building something really wonderful here today, and I want to keep going.
I love your energy, Abel. And yes, let us keep building. Our next idea is what I lovingly call stepping stones, and it also connects to something I think of as pocket coins. And this concept is really important for anyone who feels overwhelmed by the idea of sitting in complete silence because they have never really tried it before, or they're not sure where to even begin in their daily routine.
Okay, stepping stones and pocket coins. I like the sound of both of those, Anna. I'm guessing the stepping stones part means you do not have to take one giant leap into hours and hours of deep silence all at once. You build up to it gradually, one comfortable little step at a time, right? Am I understanding the analogy correctly, or are you going to surprise me with something completely different?
You understood it perfectly, Abel, and well done. You do not need to sit in total silence for 5 hours on your very first day to feel any benefit whatsoever. The river of daily noise is wide, yes, but you can cross it one stepping stone at a time. Each small stone is a tiny moment of intentional quiet that you collect and use throughout your regular, ordinary day without any pressure or drama.
And so the pocket coins idea fits right in there, I imagine. Each little moment of quiet is like finding a small coin and slipping it gently into your pocket. Maybe it's 3 seconds of silence before you answer a question. Maybe it's sitting without your phone for just 10 minutes during your lunch break. Maybe it's turning off the radio on your drive home and just being present with the quiet road.
Yes, Abel, those are wonderful examples, and they are exactly right. Each one of those small coins of silence builds up quietly inside your pocket over the course of the day, and by the evening, you have collected something genuinely valuable. Your mind is a little calmer, your words feel a little more chosen, your breathing is a little slower, and you feel more grounded and connected to yourself than you did that morning.
I really appreciate how accessible and achievable this approach feels, Anna. It's not asking me to become a monk or to sit in a silent cave somewhere far away from civilization. It's just asking me to collect small moments of intentional quiet within the life I already have. 3 seconds here, 10 minutes there, a quiet drive, a peaceful breakfast, small coins that add up to something real and meaningful over time.
That's it exactly, Abel. And I think this is also a great moment to introduce another one of our vocabulary words for today, which is the word serenity. Serenity is a beautiful word. It means a deep, calm, untroubled state of peace. Not excitement, not relaxation exactly, but something even quieter and steadier than both of those things. A smooth, still lake on a windless morning is a perfect image for serenity.
Oh, serenity. That is such a lovely word, Anna. It sounds exactly like it means, does it not? Even the sound of the word itself is soft and unhurried. A good daily life sentence could be something like, after 10 minutes of quiet morning silence with my cup of tea, I felt a sense of serenity that carried me through the most stressful parts of my busy afternoon at work.
That is a genuinely beautiful example sentence, Abel, and well done. The word serenity is perfect for describing what happens in your body and in your mind when you give yourself those small, intentional coins of quiet throughout your day. It is not a dramatic feeling. It is subtle and gentle. But over time, those quiet moments of serenity become one of the most powerful daily habits you can possibly build for yourself.
Okay, I am fully convinced, Anna. Small coins, stepping stones, one quiet moment at a time. I love it. Now, you mentioned earlier that we were going to come back to that inner critical voice, the one that panics when there's a silence and tells me to say something immediately, no matter what. I would really love to explore that because that voice is genuinely very loud in my head during English conversations.
Yes, absolutely, Abel. And I am so glad you remembered that because it leads us directly into one of my favorite ideas in this whole conversation, which is what I call the magic word yet. Now, let me ask you something first. When you are in an English conversation and you pause because you were searching for the right word, what does that inner critical voice actually say to you in those moments?
Honestly, Anna, it says things like, you do not know how to say this. You are not fluent enough. You are embarrassing yourself right now. Everyone is noticing how long you were taking, and you should probably just give up and switch to your first language. It is really quite a harsh and unkind little voice, and it shows up the moment I'm not speaking at about 100 miles an hour.
Oh, Abel, thank you so much for being honest about that, because I know that so many of our listeners hear that exact same voice in their own heads every single day. And here's the simple but genuinely transformative magic. When that voice says, you do not know how to say this, all you do is add one single small word to the end of that sentence. You do not know how to say this yet.
Oh, wow. Yet. That one tiny three-letter word completely changes the entire feeling of the sentence, does it not, Anna? Without yet, the statement feels like a permanent, closed, hopeless door. With yet, the door is still wide open, and there's warm light coming through from the other side. You are not failing, you are simply on the way. You are still walking, you have not arrived yet, but you are moving forward.
Exactly, Abel. And that's a perfect way to describe the power of that little word. The pause in your speech is not proof that you cannot do this. The pause is simply the space between where you are right now and where you are going. It's the stepping stone moment. You are standing on it, you are steady, you are thinking, and you are about to take your next confident step forward across the river.
I genuinely love this concept, Anna, because it takes something that feels like a weakness and reframes it as a process. Language learning is a journey, and every single pause, every moment of searching for the right word, every 3 seconds of silence is just part of that journey moving forward. Adding yet reminds me that I am a learner in progress, not a finished product being graded and judged by everyone around me.
And that brings us to another really important and liberating idea that I want to share with you today. It's something I call the no teacher behind the sofa. Now, don't worry, Abel, it is not as strange as it sounds. It simply means this. When you are in a real daily life conversation and you pause to think before you speak, there is no invisible examiner hiding in the room waiting to penalize you for taking a breath.
Oh, that is such a funny and relatable image, Anna. No teacher hiding behind the sofa, ready to mark you down because you paused for 3 seconds before answering. I think deep down my brain genuinely behaves as if there's a strict, very serious examiner watching my every conversational move and writing down every single hesitation I make in a little red notebook somewhere.
And that is so understandable, Abel, because for many of us, our earliest experiences with a second language were in a formal classroom with real tests and real grades and a real teacher watching carefully. So our nervous system learned to associate speaking English with being evaluated and judged. But real daily life conversation is not a test. It's just two human beings sharing ideas together with kindness and patience.
That is such a freeing thought, Anna. Real conversation is not a performance, it's a connection. And if I pause for a few seconds to think, any kind, patient person I'm talking to is not going to feel annoyed or frustrated. They're probably going to appreciate that I'm taking the time to respond thoughtfully, rather than just filling the air with rushed, meaningless words that don't really say anything.
Exactly right, Abel. And this is the perfect moment to introduce the next vocabulary word on our list for today, which is the word pause itself. Now, I know it might sound like the simplest word on our list, but it's worth spending a moment really appreciating what it means. A pause is a temporary stop, a brief moment of stillness in the middle of movement, whether that movement is speech, thought, or action.
Oh, I love that we're defining pause directly, Anna, because sometimes the most ordinary words carry the most powerful meaning when you really look at them closely. A good daily life sentence could be,
Before I answered the difficult question my colleague asked me, I took a deliberate pause of about 4 seconds to organize my thoughts clearly, and I felt so much more confident when I finally began to speak.
That is a wonderful example, Abel, and very natural sounding too. And notice something beautiful about what you described in that sentence. The pause was not a sign of weakness. It was a sign of preparation and self-respect. You respected yourself enough to take the time your mind needed, and you respected the other person enough to give them a thoughtful answer, rather than a rushed and careless one.
That reframe is really powerful, Anna. Pausing is actually a form of respect for both yourself and for the person you're speaking with. I never thought about it quite like that before today. I always thought pausing was something you did because you were failing, not something you did because you were being careful and considerate. This whole conversation is genuinely shifting something in the way I see communication.
And I love hearing that, Abel, because that shift in perspective is exactly what this episode is here to offer our amazing English learners. Now, let's move into the next idea, because I want to talk about something that connects so well to everything we have explored today. It's what I call the clean knife analogy, and it's all about how we use our words when we do choose to speak.
Okay, Anna, a clean knife analogy sounds very intriguing and a little bit surprising as a concept for a conversation about silence. I'm imagining a sharp, clean kitchen knife right now, and I'm wondering what on earth that has to do with the way I speak during an English conversation. Please explain, because my curiosity is very much at its highest level right now.
So think about a knife that is clean, sharp, and perfectly balanced. When you use it, it cuts through exactly what you need with minimal effort and maximum precision. Now think about a knife that is dull, dirty, and covered in unnecessary clutter. It drags, it tears, it makes a mess, and it takes 3 times the effort to do half the work. Our words work in exactly the same way as those 2 knives.
Oh, I see where this is going, Anna, and I love it completely. When I feel anxious during a conversation, and I try to fill every single second of silence with words, more words, and even more words on top of those, my communication becomes like the dull, messy knife. I'm dragging through the conversation, creating confusion, overcomplicating simple ideas, and exhausting both myself and the poor person I'm speaking with.
Exactly, Abel. And this is such an important insight for language learners especially. There is a really common belief that saying more words always means communicating better, but the opposite is actually true very often. Using fewer, simpler, well-chosen words and then allowing a clean, comfortable pause to follow is the mark of a confident, clear, skilled communicator in any language, including English.
So the silence itself is part of the message. The pause after a well-chosen sentence gives that sentence space to breathe and land properly in the listener's mind, rather than immediately burying it under 12 more rushed sentences that dilute the meaning and create a kind of mental fog for everyone involved. A clean knife means precise words followed by intentional quiet. That is genuinely a beautiful idea, Anna.
It really is. And it connects beautifully to another of our vocabulary words for today, which is the word clarity. Clarity means the quality of being clear, easy to understand, and free from confusion or ambiguity. When you speak with fewer but more carefully chosen words, and you allow comfortable pauses between your ideas, you give your listener the gift of true clarity. And that is one of the most generous things a communicator can do.
Oh, clarity. That is such a satisfying word, Anna. A daily life example could be something like, after sitting quietly for a few minutes and thinking through what I truly wanted to say, I spoke with much more clarity during the meeting, and everyone in the room immediately understood my point without any confusion or need for me to repeat myself 3 separate times.
That is a perfect and very relatable example, Abel. And notice that the quiet thinking time before the meeting produced the clarity during the meeting. The silence came first, and the clear communication was the result. That is the relationship between intentional quiet and confident, effective speaking. One feeds the other in a beautiful, natural cycle that keeps getting stronger over time with practice.
That cycle makes so much sense when you put it that way, Anna. Quiet time in, clear words out. Intentional silence in, confident speaking out. I want to put that on a poster somewhere in my home, honestly.
It is such a simple but genuinely powerful formula for improving the way I communicate every single day, not just in English, but in any conversation in any language I speak.
I love that idea, Abel. And now I want to take us into the last major concept before we move into our word review and our beautiful closing summary. This idea is what I call the slow friend analogy, and I think it is going to be a wonderful note to end this main section of our conversation on, because it is all about patience and what it truly means to grow in a language and in life.
Okay, Anna, the slow friend. I'm already picturing someone walking at a really peaceful, unhurried pace down a quiet afternoon street, and I'm guessing there is something meaningful about why that friend is moving slowly rather than rushing frantically towards some distant finish line. Am I on the right track, or have I completely misread the analogy before you've even explained it?
You are absolutely on the right track, Abel, and your intuition is excellent. So here's the analogy. Imagine you're walking down a long, lovely street on a warm afternoon. You're moving at a normal, comfortable pace, and somewhere a little behind you is your dear friend who walks slowly and thoughtfully, noticing every flower, every detail, every small, beautiful thing along the way. At first, they seem far behind.
And I imagine at first it might feel a little frustrating if I'm expecting them to keep up with my pace, but then gradually, as I slow down a little myself and I look around, I start to notice things I was walking right past. And before very long, my slow friend catches up to me, and we're walking side by side, enjoying the whole journey together, instead of rushing breathlessly toward a destination neither of us can even clearly see.
Perfectly described, Abel. And in this analogy, your slow, thoughtful friend is spoken confidence and inner peace. When you are just beginning to embrace the power of silence, when you're just starting to collect those small pocket coins of quiet and practice pausing before you speak, those beautiful qualities of calm confidence can feel far away, like they're lagging behind you somewhere out of reach.
But if I keep walking at a gentler, more deliberate pace, if I keep practicing those small, intentional moments of quiet every day without rushing or forcing or judging myself harshly, then gradually that slow friend of confidence and peace catches up, and one day I realize we're walking right beside each other, completely naturally, without me even noticing exactly when it happened. That is genuinely beautiful, Anna.
It truly is, Abel, and I think it's the most honest and encouraging description of the language learning journey I know of. You don't arrive at fluency or at inner calm all at once, in a single dramatic moment. You walk toward it, one quiet morning, one deliberate pause, one collected coin of stillness at a time. And the slow friend always catches up in the end, if you keep the faith and keep walking forward.
That is so encouraging to hear, Anna, especially on the days when the progress feels invisible, and you start to wonder if anything is actually changing at all. Knowing that the slow friend is still on the street behind you, still moving, still coming closer, even when you can't see them yet, that's the kind of reassurance that genuinely makes a real difference to how you feel about the whole journey.
And that word yet shows up beautifully right there in what you just said, Abel. The slow friend is still coming, even when you can't see them yet. And now I want to weave in the last two vocabulary words from our list before we move into our closing section, because I feel like both of them connect so naturally to everything we've been talking about in this final part of our conversation.
Yes, please, Anna. I'm ready for those last two words. We've talked about intentional, reflection, serenity, pause, and clarity so far, and I've genuinely loved every single definition and example we've explored together today. Each word feels like a small gift, like one more little coin in the pocket of understanding. So let's hear the last two and make this vocabulary collection complete.
Wonderful, Abel. So our sixth word is overwhelming, and I wanted to find it carefully because it comes up so often in conversations about learning and growth. Overwhelming means feeling like something is so large, so loud, or so demanding that it's beyond what you can comfortably manage or process in that moment. The noise of daily life, the pressure to speak perfectly, the fear of silence, all of these things can feel overwhelming without the right tools.
Oh, overwhelming. That word carries a lot of weight, does it not, Anna? A good daily life example could be something like, on busy, stressful mornings when my phone is buzzing, my schedule is full, and everyone needs something from me all at once, The sheer noise and demand of it all feels completely overwhelming, and that's exactly when I most need to step away for even 5 quiet minutes to simply breathe and reset.
That is a brilliant and very honest example, Abel, and I think every single one of our listeners can relate to that feeling completely. And our seventh and final vocabulary word for today is mindfulness. Mindfulness means the practice of paying full, gentle, non-judgmental attention to the present moment, to what you are thinking, feeling, hearing, and experiencing right now, without rushing forward into the future or looking backward into the past.
Mindfulness. That is such a rich and layered word, Anna, and it connects so deeply to everything we have talked about in this whole episode. A daily life example could be, during my 10 minutes of morning quiet, I practice mindfulness by simply sitting still, feeling the warmth of my teacup in my hands, listening to the sounds around me gently, and letting my thoughts settle like leaves floating down onto still water.
Oh, Abel, that example sentence is genuinely poetic, and I love it very much. Mindfulness is truly at the heart of everything we have discussed today. When you sit in intentional silence, when you pause before you speak, when you choose the green garden window over the cloudy, anxious one, you are practicing mindfulness. You are choosing presence over panic, and that choice is available to you every single moment of every single day.
And I love that mindfulness is not a complicated, expensive, or time-consuming practice either, Anna. It is as simple as feeling your teacup, noticing your breath, or pausing for 3 seconds before you answer a question. Small, accessible, available to absolutely anyone, regardless of their background, their schedule, or their current level of English. That is genuinely good news for all of us.
It really is the best news, Abel, and I think you have just led us perfectly into our closing summary. Could you take us through a beautiful, comprehensive recap of everything we've explored together in this episode today? Our listeners would love to hear all of those ideas pulled together into one clear, warm, encouraging summary before we close this wonderful conversation.
Absolutely, Anna. It would be my genuine pleasure. So today, we explored the power of silence together, and we discovered that silence is not a failure, an embarrassment, or an awkward disaster. It is a tool. We talked about how our daily mental energy is like water in a bottle, and that intentional quiet moments in the morning help us preserve that energy instead of pouring it away on endless noise before the day has even begun.
Beautifully started, Abel. Keep going.
We talked about the room with 2 windows, and we learned that the same silence can look like a catastrophe through the anxious, cloudy window, or like a healthy, natural breath through the calm, green garden window. The silence does not change, only our perspective does, and we have the ability to practice choosing the more peaceful window every time. We also explored stepping stones and pocket coins, understanding that tiny collected moments of quiet throughout the day add up to something genuinely meaningful and restorative over time.
Yes, and what else did we discover together today, Abel?
We discovered the magic word yet, which transforms a harsh inner criticism into a gentle, forward-looking truth. We reminded ourselves that there is no teacher hiding behind the sofa, that daily conversation is not an examination, and that pausing to think is a sign of confidence and respect. We explored the clean knife analogy and understood that fewer, clearer, more intentional words combined with comfortable pauses create far better communication than a flood of rushed and anxious speech ever could. And finally, we walked with the slow friend and remembered that confidence and peace are always on their way, moving toward us at their own gentle pace, and they always arrive if we keep walking forward with patience and faith.
Oh, Abel, that was a truly wonderful summary, and I am so grateful for it. And now I want to speak directly to our amazing English learners who have been with us through this whole beautiful episode. I want to ask you to drop a comment below this video right now and tell us honestly, how do you feel when there is a pause or silence in a conversation? Do you feel anxious and rush to fill it, or are you already comfortable sitting in those quiet moments?
Yes, and we would also absolutely love to know if you are going to try using the power of silence today after listening to this episode. Maybe you will collect your first pocket coin of quiet this morning. Maybe you will try pausing for 3 full seconds before your next English answer. Whatever small step you choose to take, please share it with us in the comments, because your experience truly matters to this whole learning community we're building together.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep speaking with confidence and ease. This is Anna.
And this is Abel. And you have been listening to the Mr. English Fluent Tutor Podcast. Bye-bye. Take care.
And if you enjoyed this episode and you want to keep your English progress moving forward smoothly, click on the next video right now. We have so many wonderful conversations waiting for you, and every single one of them is designed to help you grow your confidence, expand your vocabulary, and feel more at ease every time you open your mouth to speak in English.